Do you know what is better than a huge sale? Well, it's a huge Christmas sale. I think we can say it's time for the mince pie selection. With an extra sales video, there are so many good games on sale at the moment, and you can save yourself a bit of money using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg to buy your eShop credit, and you can even do that in Canada now, which is one of the best things about it. Our 12 Days of SwitchUp series where we're giving away a Nintendo Switch OLED starts on Wednesday, so make sure you got your notifications on, and a big thanks to Nap's team for sponsoring this episode. Alright, well, the best games on sale, or at least half of them, before we do the other half on Sunday? Well, let's find out. First up then, we've got a game called Iron Wings from Nap's team, and they're the sponsor of this episode, but I hadn't actually heard of this one before, even though I'm a bit of a flight sim fan. So yeah, consider this like a little mini review. Now, you take on the role of two different pilots, Jack and Amelia, and they're trying to take down the Nazis, specifically the Nazis' air assets, and it's set over quite a large campaign. Now, if you're a flight sim fan, then this is more on the arcade side of the spectrum, and you'll be given those campaign objectives, with each stage often having multiple ones for you to carry out. It's not all just arcadey though, there is some strategy here as well. You can assign your partner different objectives, so like have them go and carry out a task of your choosing to shoot down a specific plane. There are two different planes, and essentially you have to deck them out with items and gear, so there are different tools, different weapons, and the choice of which you go for will affect how easy or difficult it is to carry out the mission. Another slightly different thing, something I haven't seen before, is that during the missions you actually can switch between the two pilots. So you'll switch to one, assign some orders to the other one, do one part of that mission, and then it might be easier or maybe a little bit more tactically clever, shall we say, to switch to the other one and carry on from there. Now, some of the tools I spoke about, you're looking at things like chaffs. No, that's not chavs like we have in the UK here. Those little urchins who hang around on street corners wearing tracksuits and swearing. No, it's the countermeasures. There will also be times where you need to take pictures or use a searchlight to discover and focus different targets during the night missions. Now, here's an interesting one. The camouflage that you choose will also affect how well you can be seen. Now, I know that's very obvious, like in real life, but in a game, let's be honest, you can go in like bright pink stuff and it makes no odds. But here, yeah, the actual camouflage that you go for will help that. Now, those two main characters are actually childhood friends, and they enter the war together in the same special air squadron, and they are after General Adler, with that narrative focusing on many of the events that actually are historically accurate. Now, as a big fan of flight sims, especially those actually weirdly back in the old days with the Olivetti computer, there was one called, I think it was like Flight of the Red Baron or something like that, but they never really had a great storyline. So having this one build that a little more, yeah, it's decent. There are different aerial missions around different locations, and actually many in the USA, places like New York in the 1940s, but also realistic battlefields from Europe, Sicily, Naples, Poland and Germany. The whole game fits into 1.8 gigs. This is the first time it's been on sale since, I believe, March. There is a physical of this one as well if you want to go check that out. I know it's for sale in game here in the UK, but the best place to buy that physical is over at PlayAsia, where you can use our discount, SwitchUp23, and save yourself 5%. I'll pop a link to that as well in the description. So that's Iron Wings, the sale of which goes on until December the 19th. It's 40% off. Then in the EU regions, we have a sale, and our biggest ever sale actually, on Eastward. It's down to £10.99. That's half price until December the 18th. Eastward is a lovely action RPG. It was developed by Pixpil and published by Chucklefish, and it's all set within a really strange world where there's basically like a corruption called miasma that's gradually creeping across the land. And you leave your home, a guy called John, and there's a young girl there. I think she's called Sam if I remember correctly. And you get a train and you gradually head eastward, as the title suggests, trying to solve the problem of the miasma as you go. But there are so many of those little moments, you know, the ones where you forget actually completely what you're doing, and you find yourself either cooking up some food or sat around a campfire or spelunking in a cave. For me, it's always those moments that are more memorable. than, you know, the end boss, or the time where you join the circus, although that was pretty damn sweet in this game. And even those other moments that aren't even like story, like it might rain in the city, and that might be like a bit of a random occurrence or a one-off, and something about that just sticks in your memory. It's one of those games where there are poignant aspects that aren't necessarily intrinsic gameplay elements, and yeah, I loved it for that. Another one would be like, you know, like Sea of Stars. It does similar things. Now, Eastward is single player only. It's only 1.7 gigs. It should take you 20 to 30 hours to finish it, but I have somehow spent now 90 hours in the game. I have finished it, but yeah, my save file's 90 hours long. Now, if you're unaware, there is actually an expansion for this one, and it adds an entirely new roguelite mode. Now, that releases, I believe, December the 31st of this year. That might just be one of those placeholder dates, but I'm really looking forward to that expansion. It looks brilliant. It kind of adds in the sim life element. I think you're gonna be able to run your own farm and then go out on runs and things. But yeah, with these characters, it's just hunky-dory, tickety-boo, spot on. If you like breaking stuff with a giant hammer, sounds like my 3-year-old to be fair, then you will enjoy Red Faction Guerrilla, the remastered edition, which is 90% off. 90%, taking it down to $2.99. That is a ridiculous price, isn't it? Like, that's not even, man, I want to just go and play it now just to say thanks to him. But yeah, and it's also, I would say, really underrated within its genre. It's an action adventure. I think the main character is called Alec Marston, is it? And he goes to Mars looking for his bro. Unfortunately, I mean, no spoilers, but it doesn't go very well. And then he finds everyone on his case. Now, he becomes a guerrilla, as in the title, in the sense that he's fighting against the regime on Mars. On Mars? He's fighting against the regime on Mars. I haven't had any mulled wine, I promise. But he is fighting back against the regime, and it's almost a bit of like that Robin Hood feel, you know, everyone bands behind him and his giant hammer, and you lead loads of these quite free-flowing, free-form missions. It'll be like destroy a tower and you can literally blow up an entire building. It's quality. Love this game. It's 13.8 gigs, so it is a bit of a chunky old beast. If someone else you know has the game, you can actually play LAN with this one, which is quite cool. And it does have an online competitive mode, but there's never anyone online. So just think of it as single player only. And it will take you, I would say, about 20 to 25 hours to finish. Another one that has a physical if you want to go check that out. And the sale here goes on until December the 17th. From a guerrilla to an observer. Observer is down 85% until January the 4th, taking it to its cheapest ever price of just £4 and 4 tiny copper pennies. I was actually playing through this one again the other day. I think I've played this through 3 times. I'm not saying it's the most amazing game ever. It isn't, but it does tick a lot of the boxes for things I enjoy. Now, if you like Cyberpunk, that'll be a tick. If you like things like Blade Runner, that'll be another tick. And if you like Rutger Hauer, then yeah, there's your third and final strike on the purchase button. It's really cool. You're moving through this apartment block, and basically there's a disappearance of your son. You're on his trail trying to find his, trace his last steps. But you move between like the doors of these apartments, and like faces come up on the screens. You have conversations with them trying to track him. But then at different points, you can use these 3 different scanning modes to look for clues and things like that. Almost has a Arkham feel to it, you know, when you switch to the different methods. And then there's also moments where you can like hack into their minds of dead or dying people to find out their last moments and what went wrong. I really like this game a lot. It has an incredible soundtrack and just an ambience. It's one definitely to play with headphones. It is 18 gigs, so I mean it is a hefty old beast. But you're looking about 10 hours, 10 to 15 I think, and that sale goes on until January the 4th. Then one of my favourites and also one of Switch Corner's favourites, Alex, I know he's going to be mentioning this one. He has to, because we both think very highly of this game, and it's The Long Dark. In my opinion, one of, if not the best, survival adventures that we have on any platform. Comes from Hinterland Studio, and the way they managed to capture the feeling of isolation in the tundra is second to none. I'd say like the first 2 hours are some of the best survival gaming I've ever experienced. It's one of those games where you can play it 3 times and it plays out slightly differently each time. There are obviously core story beats, and you find yourself like in this old it's like a town that was built up during, I think it's like an industrial era or something like that, and then it's been abandoned, but there's certain individuals that are still there. It's really creepy. There's other wildlife that you have to worry about, things like wolves. And it's one of, well, actually I'm a complete wuss when it comes to games. It's one of a lot of games where I've had to put it down because I was too scared. But you wouldn't think it when when you were looking at these visuals. But yeah, it's very intense indeed. Now this one is 15.5 gigs. My intent is not to explode your SD card, it really isn't, but I mean there is a chance, isn't there? Now if you look at the completion times, I think there's also actually like, aside from the main campaign, I think there are like scenarios you can do as well. But for the main story, around 25 hours. And then for completionist, apparently, it says between 200 and 250 hours. So that must be to do all the scenarios. That's quite cool. Now the sale for The Long Dark goes on until January the 6th. So you've got a nice chunk of time to check it out. But we do have a full review if you want to go and find out a bit more. Now you lucky people in the US, you already have a nice sale on Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch, at least on the digital version. So the digital version is 30% off for you guys, taking it down to $41.99. But the physical version over there as well, Amazon, Best Buy and Target, is 33% off. We're not completely left out over here. I mean, in the EU regions, Amazon have got 20% discount, and we've got a 22% discount at Argos. So yeah, I mean, fair play to Argos. They're pretty rubbish, but every now and then they have a they have a few good things. I can't believe, right, I don't know if you have this in America, but in Argos in this country, they have these massive catalogues. Like, I'm talking like paper catalogues. And every year since like the dawn of time, they just add to this catalogue, and it got bigger and bigger. And I mean, last time I was in Argos, this thing was like 30 centimeters tall. It was ridiculous. You couldn't turn the pages without like needing some kind of like weightlifting belt. But yeah, I totally digress. Hogwarts Legacy we did a performance review of, and it's blown our minds. It's blown my minds in a few different ways. One, it comes from Warner Brothers, and I know they didn't do all of the port work, but actually this is really, really good compared to something like Batman Arkham Knight, which just came out, again with Warner Brothers name behind it, and that's absolute pony. So yeah, this one's 14.2 gigs. Again, like a massive open world game, 14.2 gigs. One where you're out chasing wolves, 17, something's not right here. You can actually pick up the DLC on the Switch version as well, but I don't think that's on sale. Plus, you know, I'm not a fan of DLC, I'm going to be honest. I'm really not. Unless it's like free or it's really, really good and the game was amazing to begin with and it's just like, you know, it doesn't feel like they just chopped it out and sold it to me, then I'll go for it. Now, Hogwarts Legacy, you're looking at about 30 to 50 hours. Now, it's really nice to be talking to the EU regions, I'm afraid, on this one. Well, you had Hogwarts Legacy, so we get this one. It's Koa and the Five Pirates of Mara. This feels really like they took all the things they liked about classic Mario and turned it into their own game. Now, this one's 30% off, down to $12.59. Not too shabby at all. It was published by Chibig, and it was actually developed by Chibig and Undercoders and Talpa Games. But if you remember, there was a Mara game before on Switch, and it was just, I'm sorry, technically it was okay, but like gameplay wise for me it was just weak. This is very different. This is cool. You've got your island, which is your hub, as with traditional like N64 style you know, platformers. And then you go sailing to the different islands with your boat, which incidentally can be upgraded to help you reach different islands. And then on those islands, you've got two different things. You've got like speed runs, which if you do them, you then unlock further boat upgrades. And those are like difficult challenges. You've got like this double jump and certain moves that really do require skill. But then you've got your classic like adventure levels, you know, where you'll have to achieve certain tasks, help certain people out, and fight bosses. I really enjoyed this. It was super slick, super smooth. I was just very surprised how good it was. So yeah, if you like that style of game, then consider this one. That's 30% off until January the 7th. Last but not least, and I'm giving this one an honorary Game of the Year. I'm just giving it to it because it needs some love. The poor thing has had absolutely no credit from the Game Awards, well, as far as I saw. It's an incredible game, and it's Octopath Traveler 2. I don't think it's ever beneficial for these games when they release really early in the year. The same for Hogwarts Legacy. Like, incredibly good games, because they came out earlier in the year and then other games since, we have that thing where we kind of forget how good they were. This one was out in Feb. It's currently 30% off or 40% off here at Amazon, so if you're a physical collector, you'll probably find it cheaper as well in other places. But Octopath Traveler 2 is like exceptionally good. It has that fantastic art style, but what makes it so good is how it weaves its story together. It's all set in a place called Celestia I think it is, and the different regions have a real unique feel to them, but it's those characters and how they manage to keep you engaged between all the different story arcs and then tie it up in a way that actually makes sense. There is also some freedom to some of the elements of it. There's some choice here, but it will feel very familiar if you've played the first game. And I know we'll have some people say, should I play the first one? The answer is absolutely you should play the first one, but I wouldn't be opposed to picking up one while it's on sale and then grabbing the other one when when you can find that cheaply. Can you play this without having played the first one? Yes, you absolutely can. It's just I wouldn't recommend it because the first one's amazing. Kind of, you should definitely play that. So yeah, there's my honorary game of the year, or at least one of them. I think I probably got about 3. We should definitely do that, shouldn't we? We should do like a SwitchUp Game of the Year awards. And we can have like all these indies that get absolutely no love. That's not a bad shout, actually. Yeah, alright. I'll have a think about that. The sale for that one goes on all the way to the end of the year, December the 31st. I'll definitely be drinking mulled wine by that point. So that's it. Thanks so much. I hope you've enjoyed this extra sales video. There will be another one on Sunday, which is going to have more games than this. And it'll have the Savile, well, actually, it's the mince pie selection. So make sure you're there for that. Thanks, as I said, to Naps team for sponsoring this episode. Do go check out their game. Please do show them some love. They're the same developers that worked on Baldo, and yeah, there's just two pals, but they do run, I think, like one of the biggest Italian studios and indie studios. And yeah, I like that a lot. I like them a lot. If you want to buy any eShop credit, use all the links. If you want to buy yourself some Joy-Cons, links, physical games, there are links down there that will save you a bit of money. I do hope most of you will join me for the 12 days of SwitchUp. All that's left to say is, for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!